Hello, my name is Lindsay Reynolds, and I'm the Riparian and Wetland AIM Lead with the Bureau of Land Management at the National Operations Center. The following presentation will cover field methods on woody structure in Section 6.4 of the Field Protocol for Lentic Riparian and Wetland Systems. Why do we collect woody structure data? Information on woody structure in an ecosystem is important for wildlife habitat. Many species of birds and mammals depend on the structure that woody plants provide. Data on woody structure help us understand a site's condition relative to the site potential. If we expect to see willows in a site under pristine conditions and willows are absent, then we know the site is degraded compared to its potential. Woody structure helps us quantify heights and age classes of woody species and tell us how tall the habitat is, how many canopy layers there are, and how dense the stems are. The data also tell us, are the woody species comprised of woody individuals, old, or a mix? And are new, young woody plants being recruited into the site? To collect data on woody structure, you will need the Woody Structure and Annual Use Datasheet found in the Datasheet Appendix, a clipboard and pencils, or an electronic device for paperless data collection, a graduated survey rod or height measuring stick with graduations in centimeters or meters, such as an avalanche pole with clear markings, a diameter tape, an AIM monitoring tool, or other small measuring device, 3 30-meter measuring tapes, and chaining pins to secure the transects. To start collecting data, first establish and anchor the transects, which is likely the same transect used for LPI data collection. Step 1 of the methods is to complete the top section of the datasheet or the first page of the Survey 123 form with information about the site, the observers, and recorder. In step 2, collect data at 2.5 meter intervals along the transect in 2 meter by 1 meter quadrats, shown by this diagram on the right. The first point for data collection is at the 0 meter mark on the transect tape. At each designated mark, place the measuring rod perpendicular to the transect, extending 1 meter out on both sides of the transect. Step 3 is to identify all woody species rooted in or overhanging the 2 meter by 1 meter quadrat. Record information about each species separately. Since there may be multiple woody species rooted in or overhanging the quadrat, there may be multiple lines on the datasheet for each location. For each species, record in the species column the USDA plants species code or an unknown code if the species name is unknown. Next, in step 4, for each woody species, record whether the species is alive or dead. Record if the species is dead by circling the species code on the form. Record the species as alive or dead based on all branches intersecting the quadrat, whether the individuals are rooted in or overhanging the quadrat. Only record dead if all intersecting stems and branches of the species are dead. For tree species, live versus dead is also recorded for individuals rooted in the quadrat in step 9. At this step, however, record live versus dead for the species as a whole. Let's say, for example, we have 5 individuals in the quadrat, shown here with light green stars. We would record the species for each of these individuals because they are all either rooted in or overhanging the quadrat. In this case, all branches and stems of the Tamarus gramosissima, the Tara, is dead, so we would circle the species name on the datasheet. In step 5, for each woody species, record the growth habit using 3 categories: tree, shrub, or rhizomatous or dwarf shrub. Record the typical growth habit for that species, not what's observed in the quadrat. A list of common rhizomatous and or dwarf shrubs is provided in an appendix for reference. In addition, record if the species is riparian or not. Riparian woody species have a wetland indicator status of obligate, facultative wetland, or FACW, or facultative, FAC, as defined by the National Wetland Plant List, which varies by region. In the example shown here, the Ribes aureum, shown at the top of the quadrat, is rhizomatous and FAC, so we would mark it rhizomatous and riparian on the datasheet. The tamarisk, or Tara, is a shrub and FAC, and the willow, sago, and the cottonwood, Popher, are trees and both FAC-W. So we would mark them by their growth forms and all riparian. Step 6 is, for each woody species, record whether it is rooted in the quadrat or whether all branches are overhanging the quadrat. If any individuals of a species are at least partially rooted in the quadrat, record the species as rooted in. If all individuals and branches of a species are overhanging, record the species as overhanging. In our example here, 3 of the species are rooted in, and the cottonwood, Popher, shown in the lower right, is overhanging, not rooted in. Step 7 is, for each woody species, record the tallest intersecting height class. For each species, both rooted in and overhanging, estimate the height of the tallest, live or dead, portion of the species that intersects the quadrat and record the height class using the height class table 12. Estimate the height class from the ground surface. For species that are entirely overhanging, are rhizomatous or dwarf shrubs, or are non-riparian shrubs, intersecting height class is the only measurement to record. Data collection ends here for those species. Here is the height class table showing the height classes 0 through 6 and the height ranges that they include. For example, height class 0 is 0 to 0.2 meters, height class 1 is 0.2 to 0.5 meters, etc. Step 8 is, for each riparian shrub species, non-rhizomatous or dwarf, with individuals that are rooted in the quadrat, count and record the number of individuals within each age class using Table 13. It can be difficult to distinguish individuals of multi-stem shrubs from each other when they are growing closely together. So in those cases, consider stems to be from different individuals if there is a 0.3 meter or 12-inch gap between one cluster of stems and another at the ground surface. Also, seedlings commonly germinate and initiate growth very close together, but are clearly individual plants and should be recorded as individual seedlings. This may result in individual seedlings closer than 0.3 meters from each other. So in our quadrat example here, we count shrub individuals of tamarisk, Tara. In this case, we only have one individual and we would place it in an age class using Table 13. Here is the age class Table 13 for riparian shrubs. From seedling to young to mature age classes, each class includes increasing numbers and sizes of stems. The last step, Step 9, is to record tree diameters and heights. For each tree species with rooted-in individuals, tally the number of tree seedlings and record the maximum height and diameter at breast height of each larger individual. Seedlings are individuals that are both less than a meter tall and have a diameter, a DBH, of less than 2.5 centimeters. For each larger tree than a seedling, record whether the individual is alive or dead by circling the species code of any dead individuals on the form. Record as live or dead based on the entire individual, including stems and branches outside the quadrat. Only record as dead if all stems and branches are considered dead. Next, for each larger tree, estimate the maximum height of the individual's tallest stems or branches, regardless of whether those stems or branches are within the quadrat or not. Record the maximum height using classes in Table 12. Last, for each larger tree, measure the stem diameter at breast height, which is the diameter at 1.37 meters or 4.5 feet, or for shorter trees, the diameter at 50% of the height, whichever is lower. Use a diameter tape for a precise measurement or estimate to the nearest centimeter using an aim monitoring tool or other measuring device. Record the measurement in centimeters. If the diameter is less than 1 centimeter, record as a 0.5 centimeter. For trees with more than one stem, measure the DBH, or diameter at 50% of height, for each stem and sum the diameters together. Record the sum diameter for that individual. In the example here, we would estimate DBH, or diameter, at 50% height for both willow, sago, individuals to the nearest centimeter. The cottonwood, Popher, is not rooted in, so we would not record the max height or stem diameter. Here's an example of how the woody individuals in our example quadrat would be recorded on a data sheet. The location on the transect would be recorded. In this case, the location was 2.5 meters along the transect. There would be a row for each species, with the species recorded and circled if all stems and branches were dead, like the Tara. Then for each species, record its growth habit, whether it's riparian, and whether it has rooted in individuals. Next, we record each species' height class over the quadrat. Then, for rooted in riparian individuals, for shrubs, we tally the individuals in each age class, and for trees, we estimate their max height and their stem diameter, either DBH or diameter at 50% height. Let's look at the Popher. We record that it's a tree, it's overhanging the quadrat, its height over the quadrat, but then since it's not rooted in, we don't record any data for max height or stem diameter. For the sago, we mark it as a tree and add a line for each individual since both individuals are rooted in, so we record max height and stem diameter for each of them. Here is an example of what the electronic form in Survey 123 looks like for a woody structure, showing information for a sago. In this case, we're seeing it's a tree, it's rooted in, and it's intersecting height class 3, max height class 4, and DBH is 73 centimeters. There are several measures you can take to ensure quality data collection. These quality assurance steps are listed in the protocol at the end of section 6.4, woody structure. It's recommended to reference these steps during and after a sample event to make sure you get all the important components of the woody structure data. This concludes the presentation on the woody structure methods. Thank you for listening.